Hello, everyone. Welcome to Synchronic Saturdays with Meghan and Crystal. How's it going today, Crystal?
Hello, it's going well. We just talked for an hour before this, so I'm like, oh, how's it going? You already fucking know.
Well, yeah, Crystal needed to tell me about her adventures with the psychic last night, so let's talk about.
Oh, I'm such a stereotypical ENFP.
But anyway, today we are here to talk about extroverted feeling, and I am actually going to let Crystal sort of take the mic here first and have me respond.
Yes.
Because lately, if you guys follow me on Twitter, which you should, at Happy Sad Lion, I've been tweeting more about Myers-Briggs stuff and also astrology as well, if you're into that. I've been tweeting more, and there are a few ENFJs also on Twitter that I've been learning a lot from, and I've been just thinking a lot about FE in general and all the ways people get it wrong lately. And so I have been sort of on my soapbox lately, so I don't want to like beat a dead horse here with being like, oh my God, nobody understands FE, whatever, because it doesn't really mean that much coming from me. Right, Crystal?
Yeah, because you don't know why they don't understand it.
I can say over and over again, hey, you guys don't understand FE. This is how FE actually is. And it's like, no matter how true I am, it doesn't really matter because I'm an FE dominant. And
does anything really matter? Sorry, go on.
Oh my gosh. But like the thing is, that's what's interesting to me about how information spreads, which is honestly kind of FE of me to even realize that it's like people receive the information that they are willing to accept. And if people aren't willing to accept how extroverted feeling functions, then me talking about it is just going to give them, it's going to be really easy for their brains to rationalize, oh, she's just saying that because blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, it's also the TE authority of just because you're an FE user means you might have your own delusions and people are going to be like, disclaimer that.
But that's confusing to me because I feel like we should know more about the functions we use. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think that concept is like, no shit, we do. But the burden of proof to prove it to other people is the problem here.
I realize people don't understand what the same people that don't understand what FE is get it confused or conflated with FI. And so they assume that I have an FI purpose of trying to prop myself up as better when I really don't give a shit about that. And so I think that.
Yeah, pretty much.
Anyway,
it doesn't help that so many ENFJs think they're ENFPs because they're like spontaneous. So it's like even more so. I'm gonna
pause. I'm just gonna say I'm gonna stop talking, and I want Crystal to take the mic. I interrupted you to give you the mic. Anyway, I would like you to just sort of explain, what do you see of FE or what were you
I was going to say to what you were saying earlier that I think that you may know your functions really well, but the burden of proof naturally is you're going to have to prove it to other people. You're going to have to prove, because even if they think they know, even if they agree that you know what you're talking about, they may not still really give a fuck because maybe they think they know better than you or something. That's like a natural, just arrogant way that people's minds.
And I don't care to prove it. I don't care to prove it.
Yeah, because FE assumes that people look around at the world being self-evident and also look at it as self-evident because that's how FE interacts.
Wait, what do you mean self-evident?
Like my mom is like, it's just really clear that you're this kind of person, and like no matter how much my FI would be like, it's not all the way true, she still gets like the ballpark of who I am and how everyone she's ever met is. FE just naturally, FE DOMs especially, just look at the world, they see what they see, and they kind of take it as is. Like, it's like
would you say that seems confusing? Like, do you think that FE and TE both do that in different ways?
I think FE and TE both do that in different ways.
Because I think for me, the self-evident thing that I see is that I'm not going to change anyone's minds unless they're open to them being changed. And so I'm not going to waste my breath.
Well, I was talking about like how you see emotions and relationships and like things like that as like self-evident. Okay. Like I mean, I don't know how to quite explain it, but I think it is like an extroverted judging Dom thing. Because
Do you have an
I would
example
say,
from your mom?
my mom is just really good at like meeting someone and getting the gist of how they operate like right away. Like I've been told before by many FE Doms that Myers-Briggs felt very intuitive to them when they first stumbled upon it, because they already see the world as like archetypes of like people.
Yes.
Other people don't see it that way. Like I was like, every person's either really like me or completely an alien. Like I don't, it's almost like FE categorizes really well behaviors associated with like people. And I think that people don't trust that, because
Yeah, and I
they
think the
assume
FE Doms are the
yeah.
best at typing, but they're the worst at explaining how they got to their conclusions.
Yeah, and TE users are the best at explaining what Myers-Briggs even is, but the worst at applying it on a case-by-case basis to what that type looks like in the real world. And I think FE never can convince anyone because it doesn't practice trying to with logical objectivity, because it's always like emotional objectivity from like a logical subjective route. But anyways, I'm just trying too hard to make it theoretical. But some initial impressions of FE DOMs and just FJs is that without TE, people are really going to think you're stupid because you're not speaking up to try and put your logical voice out in the world. This is how a TE Dom might not feel like putting their emotions out there, so people just assume they don't have any. But that's totally unfair, and I think because they don't speak up to debunk that people are treating them like that, then people are continuing to take them for granted in the community. Because I also just noticed that FE Doms, when they get smarter, they get more perfectionistic about wanting to get it accurate. They do not want to speak about FE until they absolutely know what they're talking about. And then when they try, they get met with this huge wave of backlash of people that are projecting onto them what they think FE is. And they're not prepared to use TE to say, I'm not saying it's this, I'm saying it's this. And so I personally, just from learning about FE, just been so amazed by how it actually is a really intelligent function.
So
But damn,
I may
people
have
just
a few
treat it,
question, or no, finish what you're saying.
people just treat it as like FI plus, but without any logic, which is how it manifests. It looks like unhealthy FE and an FP, I think, is more public because they use TE to put it out there. So everyone's association with like FE is just really unhealthy because they only fixate on like ESFJ moms projecting onto their kids with like subconscious FI, or they look at it as mistyped like FPs who think they're FJs or some shit and like try to like manipulate people and stuff. Like
So I have a few questions before we get too much farther, some questions to clarify like what you said. So there's the whole concept of FE dominance looking stupid because extroverted thinking is not pronounced. And I think that's very true, but I think that that's very confusing maybe for people to wrap their brains around if they're not sure. So first I want to say that if people think that I'm stupid, then I assume that they're stupid because I don't think that they're very good at discerning. I think that they take things at face value and they care more about, I don't know what they care about, but I know that I know what I am. So why would I show that to people? You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to, I don't also really care about, I think it's annoying when people try and prove how smart they are by like quoting things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, who cares? That doesn't make you smart for reading a book and then showing me where you've read the book. And like, for me, like, I've always like had a high IQ and I always had good grades in school and I've always been more advanced than my peers. And I feel like a douche even saying that. But to me, that's just always been the life that I've lived. And so why would I try and prove to you that I'm smart? Like, that's really for you to decide. And also, like, for me, like, you either agree with my ideas or you don't. And that doesn't make me less smart. That just means that you have a different way of looking at it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like the idea of like smartness being like an objective, measurable thing, I think is like kind of snooty and maybe a TE idea. Like,
or
you
even
make
like
an objective.
ACT, like we've talked about this before. Like, I did not give a shit what my ACT score was because I didn't really think that that was a good measure of success. And so I just didn't really try for it. I didn't, as long as I got into the school, I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, and I think, you know, TJs in a parallel sense also think well, I don't have to prove to you that I'm a good person or something.
Yes.
And then
yes,
because they don't feel like that, people just look at them, they're like, hello?
yes,
You know,
that's
because
very true. And my ESTJ uncle one time said something very profound to me, is he said he does not care about this sort of performative compassion of like walking past a homeless person feeling like you have to smile and do all these things. He was like, I'm a good husband, I'm a good dad, I'm a good uncle, I'm a good worker, I'm a good this, that. That's it. And he was like, I don't have to be anything else. I know that I'm loving to the people in my life. That's it. And that was very interesting to me, because it's kind of bashing the way that FE needs to sort of
yeah, dude, my mom,
good. I don't know.
Yes, I grew up with my mom basically telling me I had to do this and do this to prove that I was worthy of being in the community. And I was like, no, fuck, I'm already worthy by being in the community. I just got like fucking stuck here. Like, I get to belong here, whether or not I act like it or not. And she thought that was like so weird.
Yeah. So yeah,
And
I guess going back to explaining that concept of how FE looks stupid. And by the way, for those watching this, I'm really sorry if I'm interrupting you too much. Crystal, please tell me if you think I am. I just feel like I'm trying to direct the topic.
like any EJ, so it's fine.
Yeah. Should I not be?
No, like,
Does it bother you?
sorry. No, it doesn't, because
Okay.
I just go, okay, someone's adding to my point.
Okay, because
all
I could just
connected,
see
and
like all the NFPs in the audience thinking that I'm being rude to you right now. When my NI,
it's healthy. It's healthy to be interrupted once in a while, because we're always the interrupters.
I mean, I'm not even trying to interrupt. Yeah, I just want to like direct back to that topic before we forget it, is how FE dominants look dumb because our extroverted thinking is so low, and also we don't care about it, because that's another thing to remember.
Yeah, pretty
we're
much.
not trying. Like,
and like some people would say, just as how TE users not showing their emotions, they would say that's arrogant. They'd also say FE users not proving their intelligence is also arrogant. Basically, EJs just get a bad rap. Like, people, and I think often it's not EJs themselves are critiquing you for not speaking up enough. I think it's a lot of P's, honestly.
oh
And
yeah,
I think about the archetype of the people that would actually have an issue with that behavior, because I just think J's are like, hey, let them live their fucking lives. They're just like that.
the thing is that when people critique me for bad TE, I don't care. I only care about improving my TI. Like, I care about being consistent with what I've said before.
Yeah.
And with what I think is true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, this is what FJs are secretly thinking about. They're thinking a lot of logic is really performative, but they don't have, people assume not the balls to say it, but I also just think they're too lazy to like try.
Yeah.
Like, it's not that they're cowards. They're like, like, they're much less emotional about it.
Is it really laziness if we just have decided that it's not important? You know what I mean?
I think it's laziness defined insofar as if you feel like catering to different societal expectations or something.
Yeah,
but
both FE and TE have societal expectations on people, and I guess I'm trying to differentiate.
Yes, definitely.
I'm trying to differentiate how ENFJs and ESFJs, we are extremely vulnerable when it comes to our TI, and we might cry about it. We might be really upset if someone pokes at us about it. But if you are getting on us about bad TE, we're just going to shrug and not care. Like, I mean, I wasn't trying to do that, and so that's why I didn't do it. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah. If you've ever tried to give an FE user a command, if they don't have the TE, to just be like, whatever, I'll just go with it. Like, an FJ, inferior TI will especially nitpick the fuck out of every single thing you say. Like, why should I do that? Like, I think I've noticed this, especially since I was a kid, because my mom's an FE Dom, that if you just say something really like vague logically, they're gonna like get into you about it, especially if it's like you telling them what to do. I feel like FJs are the ones that don't want to be told what to do. I don't actually think it's TJs there. It's a stereotype that thinkers are like that. Like, I don't really think thinkers question what to do, especially in emotional relationships.
yeah.
But feelers, they'll be like, why should I leave you alone? Give me the logical reasoning. And then it gets into this whole, like, bad TE won't let it go because the TI isn't clicking all the way. And I think that people underestimate that this is a symptom of extreme emotional intelligence sometimes. Sometimes it's unhealthy. But I think sometimes FJs actually know what's best, but they're not literally going to be arrogant enough to be in to go like, no, I'm not going to give you space because you don't realize this is ruining our relationship, you stupid fucker. Which I almost wish they would say more upfrontly, because then that would actually click to someone like me without TI. I'd be like, maybe I don't know what's best. And when Meghan's gotten to the point in fights before when she said that, then I go back to my curious ENFP mode and I'm like, oh, okay. All right. Now you've logically explained to me why. All right, cool. And then it's like kind of funny how it shifts that. But I really think that FJs undermine their own authority in the areas they have authority in when they don't logically speak up, because they underestimate that neglecting to speak up logically is going to create a myriad of false assumptions about their intelligence that will screw them over later. I think, Meghan, you subconsciously began to understand this concept because you speak up logically way more, like in discussions, in Twitter debates, and things like that. It's the same as if a TJ doesn't talk to you for a while, they assume nothing's changed in your relationship. But FE would be like, yo, if you don't talk to your friends for like almost a year, of course they're gonna fucking not be your friends anymore. Duh.
So here's a concept that I just thought of, is that something I really hate saying is, I've been studying nothing but personality types since I was 17 years old, and I'm 24 and a half, and I have been thinking about these things nonstop while also meeting hundreds and hundreds of people and noticing their behavior nonstop. I've read Carl Jung, I've read sociology, like I don't feel like I've done that, and so I feel like it should show in my points. Why do I have to tell you that? It's like,
but like, can you see that in other people?
Okay, so every time I have had to be like, fine, you're questioning my authority. Well, I've been doing this nonstop for 7 years, and you don't have to believe me, but you can, or you could not. I hate doing that more than anything, because to me it sounds incredibly arrogant, because I believe that anybody can learn anything if they set their mind to it. And I'm not any better at cognitive functions than anyone. I just happened to be interested in it enough to think about it for a long time.
Yeah, I think also because without TI never shares those kinds of things, so when it comes out, it does sound more arrogant.
And I guess I feel like
some people just spit it out.
I feel like that should show in my points.
I mean, but by that logic, can you see when someone studies something for a long time when they talk?
Yeah.
Oh, because I can't.
Is that TI or something?
I think it is.
I think it is, because sometimes people say things and I'll be like, whoa, it sounds like they've really been thoughtful and taken the time to think that through. But like, I think that most people, they don't, well, maybe it's TI to check to see how thoughtful someone has been about something, or maybe TE is more likely to like, see, do you have the authority to be speaking on the subject?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think all EJs can tell when someone's put a lot of thought into something, because ETJs are like, whoa, you've really thought about this. They'll be more judgmental, something, but they do notice that too. But I don't think as a P, or any Ps I know, they can really tell how much someone has learned about something unless they're really tapping into their extroverted judging. So I think, like,
does it not always show in your ideas how much time you've been thinking about it? Because that's actually interesting to me. Is that why TE feels the need to like give these sort of,
it doesn't show. You have to explain to people, because it's like, without explaining, how are they to know how much? Because maybe you just got lucky that one time, you just sound smart that one time, you know?
Yeah. Oh, like, wait. We can't. You know, another thing that I've never said really is that I think a lot of people assume that I just type people in my head whenever I'm like saying, oh, I know all these INTPs, or I know all these INTJs. I think that they assume that I just am assuming that they are that type, as opposed to not knowing all of the personal conversations I've had with strangers, or like people I've worked with. Hey, are you this type? Hey, what do you think about these functions? You know what I mean? It's not like I am just seeing someone and being like, oh, you're probably that type. Like,
also people exaggerate when they have like more TE. Like, they'll be like, I know all these people, when they know like one person like that. So you can never assume how credible someone's word literally is. And I know that has infuriated a lot of inferior TI users, because they'll be like, isn't my word enough? Shouldn't you trust me based on my word? And TE is like, no, because people lie. And it's like, yeah, we don't fucking know if we should trust you. It's trust to us. I think TE kind of does this thing where it goes, you need to earn the trust before I know if you're even like trustworthy. And this goes for like anything logically. So unless you can provide the evidence of a proven record, they're just not going to think that you're the real fucking deal. That goes
I
for
wish
like
people would just take it or leave it. Like, take everything that they see with a grain of salt. Like, I don't know. Like, anyway, I wanted to get back to why you think. Okay, and I'm gonna shut up.
We've been talking about this. We've been talking about FE the whole time, though. But okay, what's
I
the
know.
idea?
Okay, the idea you claimed that FE without TE looks stupid. So can you sort of illustrate how that looks stupid, or like how do we come off stupid?
I just think that when you explain something you believe, it just sounds really vague. And I kind of went on a Twitter rant about this before, you know, because I saw like an ENFJ being like, "Can you explain your point more?" And it's like ENFJs will just ask, "Can you explain your point more?" and like put the burden of proof of someone else to really give all of their logical points before they even begin to delve in. And that to people looks like you're just avoiding sharing anything because you don't have anything to share if you don't share it. Like, to me, I'm like, why are you procrastinating and not volunteering any information that you yourself think by asking me what I mean by blah blah blah, as if you don't have any guesses
of somebody sharing info versus not?
No.
Okay, that's fine.
I mean, I don't feel comfortable sharing examples because I don't want to like roast someone and then like have you nitpick it or something. I just know it happens like literally all the fucking time, and I'm using, I think, maybe an ENT to vaguely give the archetype of the action I see. But
so would it be like somebody saying something that they believe, the FE user, and then someone asking a question, and then the FE user being like, well, why don't you understand it, as opposed to using like logic to prove why they're right?
yeah, pretty much. Like, I think F users don't want to guess at what someone else's point is before they finish saying it, so they keep asking for more information.
That's interesting. I don't know how to guess.
Yeah, exactly. But TE is always hypothesizing what the other person's saying or what their point is before, I guess, they technically finish.
If you're guessing, you're probably wrong. At least that's what I think. But then I think if you probably say that about like FE and like, oh, if you're smiling, how do you know that you're actually happy?
Exactly. I think if you have better TE, you technically are better at guessing, but FE isn't. Without FE users who don't have TE aren't good at guessing, but people don't realize that that's a thing. So then they just, because then it just looks to me like, oh, FE user, you're being lazy and you could have guessed what my point was by now, but you keep asking me to spell it out instead and wasting my time. Like,
so it's like, because I'm not good at guessing, I don't do it, and I assume that everyone that guesses is wrong, when that's not true, because TJs that guess are probably right.
Yes.
But TJs also judge me in the same way of guessing about emotions.
Yes, because they can't guess about emotions. They actually have no idea how someone feels, which can be frustrating for romantic relationships. Parallel is FJs can be frustrating in like debates because they'll just keep making their opponent do more talking than they have. And then when they finally say something, the TE user might sometimes be like, I could have fucking guessed that. And then unless the FE user keeps going and going deeper into their point, they're not going to sound smart until they finish saying everything. And then there's like the profound takeaway.
I think
at the
it's
end.
Because FJs, when we're arguing something, we explain the full picture, and that's why we like talk so long and we're so long-winded. Because to us, especially NFJs, I would say with like NI, but like I would say all FJs are pretty long-winded when they're trying to explain something. We can't really be concise because we're trying to explain everything.
But and TE would try to make it concise, but it would just feel reductive to your logic.
If somebody just says one thought, then I don't know what their philosophy is. I don't really know how they regard that thought.
Yeah, and TE users can extrapolate based on people that usually think that thought think this. So they ask, are you like this? And then if the person's an FJ, they tend to get offended. But
I get really mad at that.
Yeah, I mean, as an ENFP, I don't try to voice what I'm guessing. I'll just try to like breadcrumb myself into it and then say it at the end.
I get really mad when people assume that if I'm for like Black Lives Matter or like anything like social justice-y, that they assume my philosophy behind that or something. when they don't.
Yeah, I think that FJs are the last people that people should guess those things about, because chances are they don't buy into the TE of these shortcuts that other people do take, because some people don't think for themselves and they do have blanket ideologies based on those things. So you're just reacting to societally. It is easier to generalize people. You just happen to be an outlier or something like that.
Wait, so are you saying that FE doesn't generalize as much? Well,
FE doesn't. Well, I think. Well, when TE users try to guess what you're thinking, you have to understand that they're doing that because that has worked for them before with other people. So other people are simpler in that sense, where if they are for Black Lives Matter, they're for these other things too. It's kind of like what I see off of why TE does that. Because FE is also like an archive of when you see someone smiling. More often than not, they are happy. Not everyone is literally happy, though. You know, like some people are doing it to hide what they really feel. That's what FI knows. But by that parallel, TE is going like, oh, if you believe this, you tend to, as a human, looking at all humans, believe this is this too. TI will be like, well, no, fucking actually, not everyone's literally like that. But TE will be like, more often than not, it seems like it's like that. This is how, like, I'm just saying the concept is they're not looking at you, Megan, personally, or that they're just guessing, because most people are like that. And they would rather shortcut and not waste time trying to figure out all the intricacies of what you think, because they don't really care that much about you to dig, you know, especially in a like big debate
I feel like
setting.
they think I'm lying whenever I say, no, I'm not like that.
Yeah, because then that would go against how most people are like that.
I'm not like most people. It's like,
exactly. But see, FJ doesn't want to say I'm not like most people because I think that
because it sounds
arrogant.
rude. Yeah.
But see, it's funny because ironically, what would add efficiency is if you said, well, don't assume I'm like other people then. And
but then that's the thing, is a lot of people think that FJs are just so common, and like we are, but like the way that we think is different.
Yeah. It's like, because it would take TE to say the conclusion, the logical objectiveness is you're not like other people when it comes to logic. But because you don't say it like that, and because you talk so much about the parts of you that like being one with everyone, people assume that goes for every single aspect of you. So you're just going to get pigeonholed.
What? Sorry, say that again. Because we go along with other people.
Well, no, because FE users like to talk about what we have in common. They like feeling. Yeah. Because you always talk about what you have in common.
Because those things are the most important to me.
Yeah, but then they're going to assume that your logic is also like that. Like your logic is also
I don't think I've ever met anyone that like thinks the way that I do about things, besides maybe
exactly. Yes, but I'm talking about how
that's because we've influenced each other and grown together too.
I know. Yeah, because as an FJ, you're literally always only fixating on like the commonness of everyone. You're like the preachers of that. So then other people aren't going to assume what's different about you unless they themselves have a personal vested curiosity in figuring it out. So at a glance, you just look like someone who talks about the concept of fitting in and being good. It's not so much that you personally, you're introverted judging.
Why does it look like the concept of fitting in and being good?
Because you always talk about that. Because FJs always talk about that stuff.
Maybe it seems not that way because it's in the same TE category.
Exactly. Because it's like, it's just like,
I feel like I talk about how to respect people. I don't really care about fitting in.
No, like now we're looking at how a lot of FJs are. That's kind of TE too. We're looking at the FJ archetype. We're not looking at
what is the
you,
FJ
Megan,
archetype?
The person. The FJ archetype is people that always talk about what we all have in common. They preach about that. So EJs kind of do this thing where because their introverted judging is so hidden, they become what they preach. People just assume they embody that in all areas. And so because ETJs always advocate for logical efficiency, people just assume that their emotions are also all about efficiency. Well, they don't realize how much they hold back their true mushy feelings. EFJs preach about we're all one, we're all similar and united. So people are going to assume that they're similar and united and everyone else being really fucking dumb too.
Yeah, well, when I do that, like for example, like you can't fight darkness with darkness, only light can do that. Like, is that Martin Luther King? Am I right? I don't know. But whatever, like you have to fight darkness with light, like these sort of like vague quotes. I feel like, especially NFJs, but SFJs too, we share these like vague emotional things because our inferior TI is so distressed by how everyone is so different. How can we possibly get along? Everyone is everyone's focusing on these small little differences when at the end of the day we're all human, and why aren't we focusing on that more? Because the only way for us to all get along when each of our TIs have been exposed to such different experiences and people and upbringings that we're all going to have such unique conclusions, because nobody has ever been you. You're the only you that's ever existed. And so that means that the way that you think about the world is so unique. It's like, if everyone is like that, then how are we going to possibly get along if we're so focused on like this us versus them mentality? So about how can we deal with these differences.
Yeah, you just told me the mentality behind why you post, why someone would post that, and all they see is, oh, you shared a quote that someone else fucking said. Cool. Like, that's what it looks like. They don't see the intricacy behind why.
To me, if I were to share that quote, I would be thinking like, this is one of the most universal truths I've ever heard, that, and so many truths aren't universal. Like, that's the thing. Like, whenever FJs share like this really cliche, like happy-go-lucky like quote, it's because in our experience, it's one of the only things that has always been true in every single scenario, no matter who you are.
Yeah, and unless someone sits down and really gets into your TI, no one's gonna really see you like actually explain and give disclaimers and like go into that.
Also the emotion behind it is that people want to separate themselves from other people so often because they don't have a strong sense of self, and they need to do that in order to feel better about themselves.
That just illustrates my point again, because in the example, and what tends to happen more often than not, you're not sharing why your SI or NI, depending on if you're an ESFJ or ENFJ, sees all of that. You're not talking about the individual applications. Yeah, that would be long-winded, but it's like, if you fucking volunteered it, someone wouldn't think you're just being a cliche or something and dismiss you as that.
Okay, so I have to pee, and I'm a little distressed because I'm learning so much from you in this conversation. So I'm going to just let you go on your rant right now then. Okay. I'll be right back. I trust you.
All right.
So go on your rant of something that you might need to explain further for that you don't want me to interrupt you on.
Okay. FE DOMs. I think FE users also, because they're so emotional about literally virtually everything, it seems, they tend to underestimate how much they control the emotional environment, and that also undermines their points about whether they're believable or not. So people just societally are inclined to react to emotion as a conditioning of avoid. So when FJs embody the emotions they want to avoid, especially FJ women, people aren't going to stick around to listen to their fucking logical points all the way through, unless you're me, Crystal Duan, who spent so much fucking time researching these people that keep claiming they're not what they seem, and I'm like, well, fucking prove it then. But yeah, I'm the reason why she actually shares any fucking TI, bitches. So you're grateful. I am the one. I am the Dr. Frankenstein behind the monster you see. Haha. But I think FE users really underestimate how much people really don't think they're logical, and it's really unfair. But also by that like vein, TJs also underestimate how much people don't realize they're like actually emotional, as can be seen by my interactions with both types of Js. I just think it's more, people are going to more readily listen to logical rants than emotional rants. So that's why TJs are more, I guess, popular in the community, because there's more ironically good emotion behind and encouragement behind them sharing their ideas. Whereas FJs get real critical, real nitpicky, real fast once they actually start sharing what their TI is. It doesn't make people feel warm and fuzzy anymore. But it's also pretty original. So what can you do? All you can do is encourage the FJ in your life to actually give a fuck about sharing who they really are. But that's also hard for them. So what can you do? You know what I mean? Oh, I was just talking about how, fuck, I forgot what I was talking about. I guess I'll have to like figure it out.
It's okay. Just keep going.
I was talking about how like people just react badly to emotion in our society just in general. So whenever FE users are always sounding more emotional because their voices are more colorful, people are going to balk at it more. And TJs just say stoic truths, and because they don't rock the boat, people just listen to them more, I think. And it's because of an emotional bias, not because they're literally actually smarter.
I think that people misunderstand emotional versus emotionally unstable.
Yes, they do.
And
because the thing is, a lot of times people, when they are emotionally unstable. Like a lot of people in our society act like that because of repressive.
I've found that FJs, in my opinion, are probably the most emotionally stable people out there.
It depends on your definition of emotionally stable.
Okay.
But I would say as a whole, feelers are emotionally stable compared to thinkers at times, because they actually take the time to. But there are some really shitty feelers too. They're really shitty feelers too.
Shouldn't even have to say this, but obviously I'm biased because I'm an FJ. So for all I know, I'm wrong. Every time I say something, I'm not stating it as a TE truth. I'm just saying my opinion. That's another thing.
Good job. That's a good disclaimer.
I was talking to Kat on Twitter. Go follow her, who's also an ENFJ. And we were just complaining about, why do people expect us to have disclaimers for something so obvious? Like, oh, hello, that was an opinion. Duh. Like, why would I be saying that that's a universal?
You know, I don't think FJs are the most emotionally stable, but I do think they're the most emotionally consistent. Like, you can kind of predict, like, they give you a really easy way to understand them in a sense, I think, because they explain and they share, especially like FJ women. Like, so I think technically it is that they value emotional consistency in that there's like a TI system behind what makes that specific person's FE like tick, and they abide by that.
Though.
So I don't think it's emotionally stable though, because I do not think FE is emotionally stable, because it's always changing. How could it be stable when it's an extroverted function?
So in my experience, it's the FJ that, and I don't want to put like this over this. My main point in saying
you can just say it and I'll come up with a disclaimer for you.
Okay, thank you. Because I mostly was saying that to sort of illustrate how backwards it might seem, because just because FE is responding internally, we either probably saw it coming or know what to do about it. In general, at EFJs especially, we might seem all over the place with our emotions, but we don't feel like, I'm very in control, like, of my life. Like, something happens and I might feel the emotions of it, but it doesn't like get me off course, you know? Well, and I guess also
in the scheme of your life.
Yeah, and emotions aren't a problem for me. They aren't an obstacle that holds me back from my true desire. They aren't like, I just view them as like a tool of going through life. And you see them very strongly, but it's not unstable. Well, when I think of FJs, I think that, for example, if there was a death in the family, FJs aren't going to be the ones crying in a corner, unable to.
Yeah, that's a good example.
FJs are the ones that are planning the funeral, making sure everyone's happy, holding it together, and knowing, like, we aren't just shoving things under the rug. We know that this is a fact of life, and we take it as, you know what, this is just all the more reason to love each other now, because life is limited, and they handle it. It's not shoving it. It's not pretending to be happy. When you see FJs doing that, they are handling it.
I agree. I would say FPs in that sense aren't emotionally stable. That's for sure.
But FPs are more emotionally stable than FJs in other ways, because you always make sure to process the emotion fully before you move on from it. So
that makes sense.
Yeah, I'm not trying to pit one thing against each other, but I think that there's a misconception where, like, if
yeah.
you were,
I know you're not trying to pit it, but I'm just telling you it is naturally pitted because of TE. So that's all
why?
you're doing.
Why?
I think because I don't know. I just think of like how so many TE DOMs and like thinkers and just TE thinks. Oh, we once talked about the idea that FE doesn't feel emotional lack. Like it feels like there's enough emotions to go around. People can all get what they need. TE doesn't feel like that. TE is like you gotta pick and choose. You gotta compromise in life when it comes to which emotions you're gonna let in or not. It feels really selective about that shit.
And also, I feel like TE would
that is.
interpret what I said as thinking that FE was better, and it's not, because that's just literally
Yeah,
one
because it assumes that you have an FI root behind what you just said when that's not true. And
What
that
would
took
an
so
FI
long.
root look like?
An FI root, I don't know what it would look like, man. I'm just like saying.
What's an example
TE.
of like something you would say that has an FI root, just for people that might need to compare?
Like
Because
something
you
that
always say,
is.
well, you always say that what I do doesn't have an FI root. Like, what do FPs do that have FI roots?
I don't know how to explain that because virtually everything I do does. I would say that if I were to say that statement, though, I would mean this is better. Like I would 100%, I own 100% that I would be arrogant enough to be like, this is more efficient of a process emotionally, so it is better. So fucking suck it or whatever.
Mm-hmm. And I definitely don't think that.
I would have the judgment of what's more efficient and what's better for everyone, because TE is all about what's better all the time.
Yeah,
so
but TI is like, I'm an ENFJ, and so it's better for me. But for an NFP, they're supposed to process their emotions because they experience emotions differently. So,
yeah, and like I get the concept now, but I think TE, fucking communist, like fucking function. We think everyone should be the same because then things would be more efficient, and maybe people are the same because we'd like to believe that.
Yeah, and that's why TI is so independent, especially in INTP and ISTPs.
Yeah, they're independent when it comes to like what is logically the truth here, as opposed to like, and so
I
it's
see
like
those types as being really afraid of sort of like a big brother authoritarian sort of government. They hate that. Like dominant TI normally is like, no, you can't control me.
And I think it's
like
maybe
I think it's more efficient if we're all the same, but I'm not.
Yeah, because efficiency can undermine truth, just as how blanket emotional like things can't account for emotional nuance at times. So TI is always going to critique TE from the bottom. FI is always going to be like, what the fuck, FE at times.
Well, I think okay,
but
so
I think TE and TI get conflated by feelers, and FE and FI get conflated by thinkers, because I know, because I like an ESTJ right now. I projected shut up. I projected so many times. Oh, see, and FE right there would think it's funny to gasp react because it knows that stuff gets a rise out of me, and I don't think about stuff that gets a rise out of people.
FE loves to get a rise out of people.
Oh my god, I fucking hate affecting other people. I'm like, just let me live my life. Leave me alone. Stuff like that. That's how FI and TE kind of is. But anyways, so I like an ESTJ right now. Don't gasp again, please. And I keep projecting that he is just like a TP, really judgmental and nitpicky of every single deep emotion, just because they both seem like really efficient and critical when you meet them. That's not true. And that took a long time for me to actually like untangle, because no fucking thinker's ever told me I'm not a TP, TJ, or I'm not a TJ, TP. They just go, I am what I am. And I think that FE and FI also gets conflated in the same way, because I think most people in the Myers-Briggs community have just been raised on a diet of, are you a feeler or a thinker, when it's much more complex than that, because there's two thinkers, two feelers.
Even those that know, they still perceive it that way. Even those that know, and that's what confuses me the most. Is even if you know that it's different, do you really know how different it is? Because I think people would like to think that FI and FE are more similar and TI and TE are more similar. And that's not
because
FE and TI are more similar.
Oh yeah, because they're connected. But
exactly.
It'd be easier to think they're the same. Like people don't want the world to be complex. They want it to be simplified.
Yeah, and whenever people are like not sure if someone is a J or a P, that confuses me, because that's completely different, you know, like that means that you're conflating the two, sort of. But I was going to say something about, or were you going to finish that thought for a sec? Or?
I don't have any thoughts to finish. I just kind of say them as they come and go. So I can't tell you what even my thought was. Yeah.
Okay, so going back to the example of an FE person who there's a death in the family and they're the ones to make all the food and like plan the funeral and do all that, and they cry,
which has happened.
Yes, and they're the ones that cry openly, and they use that to bond with everyone. And they're people might interpret, especially FI users, they might look at that and say like, you need to be grieving, you need to sit down, you don't need to be the one planning the funeral, you don't need to be the one
It's actually funny because in this example, because I know your grandma died a few months ago.
Mm-hmm. And you know the way that my household reacted, where my INTP uncle reacted completely differently and just sort of went into his shell. Like, anyway.
It's also like a PJ thing, but I'm just even thinking about an ESFJ former friend of mine. When our INTJ best friend died a couple of years ago, I was not called, but implied I was selfish for like not wanting to go to all these like fucking community events and like not wanting to like share my story with like literally everyone. Because I would write this beautiful eulogy online, and then if users would come and ask me about it, shout out to Dan Burns, who, you know, saw the anniversary eulogy I wrote for him a few days ago. But
because
they would read
FI wants to care for their own emotions that are reacting.
Yeah, FI wants to be fucking alone, because at the end of the day, we look at individual bonds as what makes up our lives, and FE looks at the collective of we're all in this together. And so he was like, why the fuck aren't you trying to comfort other people? You're so selfish. Yes. He didn't say you're so selfish, but he said the pieces that would lead someone to connect them as, oh, you're making a judgment on me, when really his TI might have not had the TE conclusion of you're selfish, but I could still feel subconsciously he wasn't thinking I'm not selfish, and he was really confused and interrogating me to justify why I was being like that, which really set me off. So it's funny because by that logic, he seemed more emotionless to me about the whole thing than I did. And I looked at it that way with FI and TE, because I was like, why aren't you fucking sitting the fuck down and like focusing on your grief instead you're distracting yourself with other people and performing for other people right now? I'm so insulted.
Know if it's performing.
No, but see, he would say that too, because I'm using TE to judge what the FJ is doing. And I'm just using this as an example for you to illustrate
because FI thinks when someone dies, then it's really just your bond that matters, which seems very selfish.
Well, but see, it's not just that, because it is my bond does matter. So does your bond. So does their bond. Everyone should be thinking about their bond and then coming together to be peaceful about it or something. I don't know.
Well, okay, and I want to just make a disclaimer that I personally believe that everyone should grieve in their own way. And I know that this is a sensitive topic, so I don't want anyone to think that I'm judging them for the way that they grieve, especially knowing Myers-Briggs and the ways that people process emotions differently. Like, my way is not better than yours.
And also, because also an FE Dom, I'm thinking that everyone watching this, if they've been through grief, might have felt kind of triggered by FE Dom, because it's a very FI experience that you're having. Because I feel like even you, when you like had so much FI about your grandma dying, and sometimes if you wanted to go do it, your FJ family members might be like, what? So even FJs could do it to each other. So that's what I want to avoid stepping on.
I think that TE and FI, they would maybe look at that behavior of the person that is grieving, but they're doing it by making people food and all that. They might think that they're shoving it under the rug. But what people don't understand is that FE can transform its emotions in the moment the same way that NE can transform its perspective, the same way that SE can transform where it is by taking an action and moving somewhere else. The same way that TE can do a science experience and find a new truth. FE can transform that emotion. And if you are seeing an FJ, that is the way that they're grieving. They have transformed their emotion. Sorry, I'm getting like very heated. They have transformed that emotion from being sad about the person to now realizing what matters is making sure the family feels connected and making sure that we're appreciating people while we can. And like, I'm going to express the love that I had for this person that died by helping you right now, because that is, something that my dad, who's an ENFJ, told me that I very much believe and agree with 100%, is he said, death is for the living. Your grandma's gone. Go be there for your mom. Your mom needs you now. And she was like, and he was like, when I die, it's not about me. It's about you. Because I'm gone. And
it's funny because I think that's so true too, but my TNFI interpret it so differently, because I just think death is for the living to reflect on how they're living, not like as a point of reflection, not like the reason they're dead now, like we're gonna go focus on the living. How it sounds.
The reason why death is a good example here, I think, is because it's something that everyone has FI about, like no matter what.
Yeah, so true.
And you might see all these community gatherings as performative, but what happens is
not literally, but they're not performative.
What happens is that whenever people feel a loss from someone, then they feel lonely. And what makes you feel less lonely? Community.
Yes.
And especially also, like for family, sorry, what were you going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, I probably need to leave soon.
Okay. Last thing I'll say on that is that it's like,
we're talking about community.
FE is responding to their FI emotion of death, recognizing it, and then taking an action to transform the emotion of the moment, and creating a family dynamic that is even closer now after that had happened, being grateful for that. People don't understand all the heavy lifting that FE is doing to seem happy.
Yeah, because they don't say it.
And something I just want to rant about is that people, especially FI users, have accused me of being like inspiration porn, positivity porn, whatever you want to call it, just sharing quotes like on my Facebook or whatever. Like, no, I have done fucking hard work to get to that point. I am not just someone that wants to think that everything happens for a reason. Be happy, like love is all that matters. No, love is all that fucking matters, you fucking bitch. Like, love is all that matters. Go see for yourself. And I always encourage people to use TI. Go think it through for yourself. Go try and live your life without love. See what happens. The same way that TE will tell you if you don't think that's true, go do a science experiment and see. FE is if you don't.
Yeah, well, FE is never go prove it to yourself then, because they think that's I just have yet to hear an FJ be that harsh, but you can be the first one to do that. Haha.
I'm sorry. I'm emotional right now.
And how often people get wrong. I feel like we need to do another one too, because we haven't even gone into the other stuff I wanted to dig into.
I'm so sorry that I interrupted you.
No, but what you were saying was still relevant to FE, so it's not like I'm married to expressing my ideas the way a J might be. I just take what comes at me and I just keep hitting home runs. But I do think this is an important topic because I'm really able to comprehend the magnitude of how often people don't understand FE, and this is really a societal problem too, not just in the Myers-Briggs community.
So
I think this does deserve another podcast. So,
and I said something about this before, and so the J and P, or not JP. Did you know that according to some Myers-Briggs stat, which who knows if that's even true because it's not scientific?
Probably not.
70% of women test as feelers and 70% of men test as thinkers.
Yeah, and I don't think that's literally true. I don't think
maybe that's not literally true, but it still goes to show that women are taught to be this way or whatever. And women have been oppressed by society, by men, by the patriarchy. Don't believe me, look it up. I really don't care what you think. But the thing is that because of the patriarchy, because of our society, having a high emotional intelligence is not seen as that valuable. And so
that's so true.
The way that we view any feeling function, FI as well, FI has been shit on its fair share as well. But any feeling function, you have to remember it's being viewed at by the lens of society and by what our values are. So
yeah, I think, well, so okay, a little sneak preview of what I'm thinking for the next one is I really want to talk about how FE without TI looks, which is how FPs manifest FE, like a fake kind of FE, because I really want to delve into that, because I think that is where a lot of these misconceptions are also birthed.
So demonstrative FE.
It's important. I think it's important to talk about, especially because I don't engage in demonstrative FE gestures as much as maybe some FPs do, especially IFPs. I really want to get into that because that's another component to why FJs with TI get mistaken for FPs being pushovers without TI. Because that's
because every time
different.
the FPs use
really
FE, it's to please their FI, to make things better for them, and that's not what I do.
No, exactly, but people think that's what everyone using, yay, expressive, extroverting my feelings. They assume that's what the FP, they assume that the FJ is the FP. And I'm going to get into how, ironically, that's because of TE that the FP has exerted their way of being as the kind of FE like archetype out there. It's like TE will put itself out there and be pushy. Like FPs are the really, really like unhealthy FPs are way more clean than FJs, because FJs at least keep talking to explain and get through it. FPs will just literally leech onto you. And like, I want to really get into that, but I don't have time right now. But I think that is another important component to people realizing that what they're seeing is not always the healthy FE DOMs, and ENFJs are not demonstrative FE users because they have TI. And people don't get that, especially thinkers. So, but I get that because I'm an FP. Yeah. I'm like, right. They may not get that, but you know who does? This bitch right here. So, yeah. So I just wanted to wrap this up with saying that it's because of you that I've learned so much about FE. Yeah. Like I had a lot of trauma. I had a lot of trauma growing up. Yeah, you can't fucking interrupt me here because I'm sharing FI. I had a lot of trauma growing up because my mother, who's an ESFJ, would use TI on me a lot, but our TE and TI would clash all the fucking time. And she just wouldn't understand where I was coming from, and I wouldn't be able to express myself or understand where she was coming from. So Myers-Briggs really saved our relationship in that sense. But before that, I was really projecting that all FE is toxic and just really, it's funny because I never thought of it as pushover. I thought FE was controlling. I always thought that there was a TI root behind FJ, like being so nice, and I'm like, they're secretly fucking judging me because my
it's way more accurate to say that FE is controlling than pushover. I really don't think they are. And like, I think not even ESFJs. Like, I mean, like my mom and sister are just like not pushovers. They just won't talk to you if they don't care about what you're saying.
Yeah, I think growing up with a thinky ESFJ mother who, you know, was like a fucking math major and like fucking taught calculus to like college students for a while, I really was conditioned to see the TI root behind the FE niceness really early on in my life. So it's funny because my trauma around FE and TI is that I have the correct TI perception of it, that it is controlling, while other people just think that they're just softball FPs, but they're not. So it's funny because after being friends with Meghan, I'm really grateful that our fights have been because I call you a controlling, manipulative bitch. And that's actually how you feel like you actually are deep down. So, you know, I just want everyone on this podcast to know that we're best friends because we see each other for the fucking total dicks that we actually are.
Yeah, and I love it when people hate me for who I am. Just don't hate me for what I'm not. Don't be wrong.
Yeah, I used to bitch about like Megan's so bitchy, blah blah blah, and people were like, I don't know what you mean. And so I stopped bitching because I'm like, people don't understand that. But FJs, I think, are judgmental as fuck. They just hide it, which makes it even scarier.
Because FE can sort of see what the natural outcome might be of something that you're doing, like the same way that TE might tell you what to do in like a work setting or like in a project. TE will be like, hey, look, if you keep doing that, it's not going to work. Like, FE will like judge you. Yeah,
I just associate so much of FE as actually being really controlling and bitchy, and I am curious. So I talk to them more and try to like say things to get them to say those really.
We selfishly do that because we don't want to feel and empathize with
yeah,
your
because so when I make friends with FJs, I always try to get to their bitchiest thoughts, and I kind of almost have straight up asked them what their bitchiest thoughts are, and they share it. I'm like, yeah, thanks, and they're like, oh, that wasn't rude, and
But
I'm
I
like,
think
that was the real you. The real you is a total fucking bitch, and you need to show that more because people think you're a pushover, and they're like, people have called me that. I don't know why, and now I guess I know why, and I'm like, yeah, that's right. Put the TE out there that you deserve to, and people are like, okay.
I want to say one more thing, and sorry, is that I think that I want to express that the reason why I'm emotional and passionate about this is not because it's not some sort of FI. This is my function, and I want people to like my function. It's because I think it's kind of ruining the world, the way that we look at this.
Yeah, it's like an ideology thing. Like you're seeing how it bleeds into everything. Not like I personally, the P.
I think in general,
am affected.
I think in general, there needs to be a more FE response to certain things. Like if there's like a national tragedy, like as opposed to being like, this makes me mad because of me and you're wrong and blah, blah, blah. Like that's not the right response. And that is why I want everyone to understand the value of FE and understand the efficiency and the effectiveness of FE. Mm-hmm. That's what I want. I don't give a shit if you like appreciate me more after listening to this. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I care if people appreciate you more.
Well, thanks.
But it's true though. This bitch is telling the truth from knowing her for like 4 years. She literally doesn't really care. But I do, which is why I bothered trying to.
Because I just know that the right people will care and the wrong people won't care. So I don't really care to control that. But
all right, well, we'll do part 2 next week when we talk about evil FPs and evil FE. Because what FPs use Yes, because it's not the opposite of FE isn't always TE. I'll say lack of good FE, aka lack of TI. So we really need to get into that because that is going to be what people are going to like. People are not going to believe us because they're like, I've seen an FJ do this, and I'm going to be like, chances are they're probably fucking FP mistyped.
That's true.
So we need to get into how to identify a mistyped FP who's trying to manipulate you, because the last thing I'll say is you should watch Nate's video about manipulative ENFPs. But when an FP is using FE, they're being manipulative. Like they just are. We know the TE of how it looks. And we love it, and we're going to keep on doing it. We are doing it to literally boost our own ego. I believe that 100%. I'll explain it more next week. But FPs are being manipulative when they use FE. FJs are just being themselves and hiding their secretly bitchy thoughts. FPs have bad intentions. Stay away from a manipulative FE, demonstrative FP. So, yeah.
Thank you guys for watching. Join the Facebook group Personality Typology for Self-Growth. If you'd like to work with me one-on-one or are curious about connecting with me, all of those links are below.
I'm going to get so much shit for saying that about FPs, but oh well.
Whatever,
I can handle
it's
it because
true.
I am one. I can handle it because I am one.
Oh, are you on an ISFJ?
No, people think I'm an INFJ though, so.
That's all right, so dumb. Like, all right, anyway, bye.
I'm not an INFJ.
Bye.